It was way back in the early 1970s that my younger brother, myself, mother, together with a good friend and her daughters, had our first train ride. We left a clean, busy Johannesburg station to travel the old Zazen route to Pretoria, from where we had to walk 2.5 kilometers to Pretoria Zoo. This was to be my first experience to travel by train. Since then, the sight and sounds of trains and locomotives always excite me. The first electric motor units to run on South African rails were to run on the former Cape Town to Seapoint line. EMU trains were being tested 6 months after an announcement in the Cape Town Argus dated the 5th of April 1927. The South African Railways introduced the 5M2A electric motor coaches in 1961. They have been so much a part of the South African railway commuter scene in densely populated towns of Cape Town, Durban, Johannesburg and Pretoria that they have become invisible. The basic design of the 5M2A train sets were based on the original 5M2 series made by Metro Camel in the latter part of the 1950s. More than 1,000 motor coach units were produced, and over 2,500 coaches to a basic design were made over a period of 24 years. Union Carriage Workshops in Nigel was a fledgling company in the late 1950s, but it was considered to be a good idea to construct this series of locomotives locally. Often these trains are in the background and would either be in the way of the photographer's photos or obstructing a high-speed express train. They have been abused, used as targets to throw stones or shoot bullets at, and even burned by vandals. To the drivers of these mundane trains I doff my hat, as they travel through the worst parts of the greater metropolitan areas, even needing an armed guard as an escort to perform their duties. Sometime in the mid-1990s, the Gulf Red and Grey livery was altered to a yellow and grey, with Metro replacing the SAR. This livery looks good on a clean and fresh model. But in reality, the coaches always appear to be dirty and covered in graffiti. The SAR Suburban set first appeared in the Lima catalogues for 1979 to 1980. As an artist's impression and announced as new. The actual models, which we so covet today, were to finally appear in the 1980 catalogue. The Suburban train sets were never re-released in the mid-1990s to the South African train enthusiast. This gives these particular models a rarity, where even the most badly damaged model could fetch ridiculous prices. Looking closely at the model with the eyes of a rivet counter, let's see if it scales out correctly. According to the drawing, top of roof to top of rail should measure 12 foot, which should scale about 42 millimeters. I should have put the model onto a piece of rail before doing this measurement. The length of the drawing varies from 60 foot 3 5/8 of an inch to 60 foot 10 7/8 of an inch, depending on which series of motor coach was made. My model measures 213 millimeters. How about the width? The drawing gives me 9 foot 3 inches. The model should measure 32.37 millimeters. 33 millimeters is close. So far, the Loco is a good representation of the real train set. It puzzles me why Lima used a different wheel set for the coaches. There are a few details which have been omitted, like the doors behind the driver's cab to access the electrical equipment, and a set of stairs behind the driver's cab door. Initially, the power cars were equipped with 2 pantographs, which could explain why there are 4 walkways on the roof of the driving car. These unnecessary pantographs were removed quite early. There is a lot of scope for the modeler to really make these models even better, even to create some of the many varieties of Suburban stock made. The addition of KD couplings would be the easiest and best conversion for the beginner. It can bring the coaches much closer together, creating a much more realistic appearance. Converting the bogies to run on 12mm track could be a little more challenging. I'm not sure what this cover does, but for those modelling Cape Town suburban stock, they do not appear on any of the stock, and often you will find modelers in Cape Town remove them. As these models are considered as rare, anyone attempting to bring a cutting blade close to these models would need to think twice, especially if a damaged model could demand a respectable price. This is the livery I like to see, Gulf red and grey. It stands out really well against the backdrop of the garden. I also like the large opening windows of the older coaches, which you could slide down completely and enjoy the wind in your face. These larger windows were eventually replaced with smaller opening windows for passenger safety. Even the well-built 5M2A motor coaches, which have been around for more than half a century, have become old. By 1998 and 1999, the 5M2 and 5M2A train sets were upgraded to the 10M series. But lack of a comprehensive railway network, lack of funding, lack of safety, lack of security, and pure malicious vandalism of the South African railway system has led to commuters enjoying the convenience of road transport. The outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic and subsequent lockdown of the country worsened an already crippled railway infrastructure. Opportunists have removed anything which they may have thought had value. To get the trains running again, train sets have been pulled by diesel traction. If the electrification of the Witwatersrand is ever restored, I fear we will never see these trains, which I have loved since my first train trip, ever run under their own power again. The future for these stalwarts of South African transport will be a memory created by a model. I fear we will shortly never see these trains run on the rails in the foreseeable future. If I had my way, I would love to see a complete 5M2A electric motor coach set of 2 coaches and 2 locomotives, preserved for posterity, possibly in a prominent position of Cape Town, Johannesburg, or even Pretoria Station.